What's going on, guys? It's Easy Mac here. Wanted to bring you guys some more content. Heading into stage 3, Breaking Point has finally released our fantasy. Right now, we have 8 contests that you can play for free right now on the site. Each has their own scoring system, has their own prizes. So join up today. The tiebreakers. If you tie for first, the tiebreaker is which team was created first. So making your team early it pays off. So I'm gonna go through some of the fantasy leagues today, do some of my teams, explain how some of them work. So you can see I've already joined 4 of them. This is the season keeper that was locked at the beginning of the year. So you can't actually join that one anymore. But all of these 8 right here you can join. So for example, the Breaking Point Prize Picks one, which has a $400 first place prize, and the top 10 gets paid out. This is my team for that. Um, so each one of these has its own scoring system. So for the Breaking Point one right here, just our regular one, this is the standard scoring. This one with the prize picks is standard scoring, but it has a $30 budget instead of $25. The dope checked worst team wins. So this is standard scoring again, but instead of the best team wins, it's the worst team that wins. So as you can see, this is my team for this one. And again, it's nothing against these guys. I just kind of like picked random players this time around. So it's $69.69 for the first place. And we can actually see the last time. Let me see. The last split, the first place team was Brezzy, Eric Boom, Arcides, and Hook. So of course, 2 of these players are no longer in the league. So had to switch it up this time around. Um, the COD Agent one, which is one of my actual favorites to do, is S&D only. So hard point control played no factor in this. It's just S&D. So this is my team. I have Beans, Kenny, Abizi, and Draza. I know Kenny hasn't been that good at S&D, but I think with more practice, they started to click actually at the end of last stage in S&D. I think he's going to do well. And Beans for Boston. I've heard good things about Boston behind the scenes. Like they've been doing pretty decent in practice. And for the $4 picks, you have to take a risk on somebody, and so that's who I went with for that one. But for today, I'm gonna go through the 4 new ones that I actually just released. When I'm recording this, it's Tuesday, so these 4 right here were released on Monday. These ones were just actually released. Um, we partnered with some of the teams again, and actually we were able to partner with Attach and his clothing company, A Statement of. So each of these have some sort of either jersey or, um, sweatshirt merchandise tied to it. So the LA Thieves one, even though it says $0 here, it actually has an $80 jersey that's attached to it. So the first place winner gets an LA Thieves jersey. Um, they were they were part of the stage 2 contest. Same thing with Seattle and Minnesota, so they're coming back again. The Seattle one is actually really cool. It's a sweatshirt and it's a dog tag. So let me actually bring up the picture of the dog tag that I got from them. The Seattle Surge make their own some of their own stuff. Uh, where is that? So, oh, that's not gonna work. So this is the picture of the dog tag. I actually think it's really cool. It's in their intro videos. So if you guys want a sweatshirt or dog tag from Seattle, first place winner gets that. I believe it's around $125 like value. And then the statement of, so this is again Attach's company, a clothing company that he runs with some other people. Um, so basically a statement of, that's right here. So you can win a merchandise bundle that we're going to be doing with them. First place gets that again. Whenever this loads, I'll come back to it. They have for theirs, it's kill heavy, and we made Attach 50% off. So he was originally supposed to be $7, so he's $4. Not exactly 50% off, but the cheapest player is $4, so we made him $4. So a lot of teams will have him on there. And then for the final one, it's the Rocker Fan Club. So this one's actually almost $500 worth of value. Top 4 or top 5 get something. So the first place jersey, hoodie, 2,400 COD points, and then it goes down from there. Second place jersey and COD points. Third place hoodie and COD points, and then fourth and fifth just get COD points at different amounts. So Rocker have been one of our favorite orgs to work with. They went all out this stage, added a whole bunch of stuff. And just for the statement of, here is some of the samples that they have. Honestly, I told them this when I was talking to them. Players don't usually put a lot of effort into their merchandise, or players just don't do it at all. And I actually think like uh, there's Zinni, Attach, Simp, like it's very small, the players that actually put in work to put in a good clothing brand. So um, I really wanted to work with them. I was happy we were able to get that going for this stage. So moving on, I'm gonna make my teams actually for each one of those four that went out. We have, if you want some help, some cheat sheets, some beginner's guides, we have everything right here for each of the scoring methods that are used in this split. You can also find it on our homepage right here, and it actually tells you when it loads up. It actually tells you which contests use which one. Um, so you can see the kill heavy is a statement of, the S&D only is COD agent, objective heavy is Minnesota, no death penalty is Seattle, and then most of the other ones use the standard one. The reason why we split that up is so there's not the same winner for every single one. So each one has a little bit of variation. So there's different winners for each one. And it still could be the same winner for each one if they're able to do that. But it makes it a little bit harder. So for the LA Thieves one, we'll start with that. This one uses the big captain. So usually captains get 1.1 times scoring. This uses 1.2. So it's a little bit of a difference, but it matters more for who you pick for your captain. So this is the cheat sheet. I'll zoom in a little bit. This is the cheat sheet for the standard. So basically what this has is the player, his role, his team, and the price. And then it has a series average without the placement multiplier. So for the majors, you get a placement multiplier depending on where you are. The way we work it out is each round has a multiplier. So like the first round of winners brackets times 1, the second round is times 0.8. So it kind of like evens it out. So players that just play a lot, like through the lower bracket, you don't get any like additional points. You get more points for winning in the upper bracket in the grand finals compared to the lower bracket. It evens itself out, but the series average is just the base points they get per series. You can just tell consistency from that. This is their total points. So again, this is where the multipliers are in. So that's why you can see Draza has more points than Hydra and Kismet because he won a major. When you win in the grand finals, it's worth 2 points or 2 times the amount of points you get in there. So just imagine this times 2. So that's where you can see the totals. It's something good to look at as well. This is qualifier and major points. You can see Shotzzy actually does very well at the majors. He actually has a lot of room for improvement at the qualifier. So this is also something to look forward to. You can look for red flags or for potential improvement. For Shotzzy, you can just see he's the best major player, but he's underperforming in the qualifier. So he's like kind of like a buy low player because with 7 matches online, you can get some good value out of him if he performs well during the qualifier, which you can see here that their strength of schedule is actually very low. It means they have an easy, or it's 11, which means his strength of schedule is very low. The only good team he really has to play is Atlanta, and then he kind of goes on a six series stand. I don't even know what to call that. Of just playing kind of like the weaker teams. So he could be a very good candidate for $9. And then you have S&D hardpoint and control breakdowns for points values. Again, this is kind of like you can kind of see like red flags for weaker modes and then stronger modes. So you can see Simps getting a ton of points in S&D right now. Kleenex is struggling in control. Abizi in hardpoint, Kismet in control, Fame in hardpoint. So you can kind of go down and see. Down towards the end, you get more players that are stronger in one mode and weaker in the other two. So it's good to like scope out, see who they're facing on the strength of schedule, and then go from there when you're picking. Now we have these for every single one that we'll be going through today. And then on the other side, so these are the beginner's guides. So these kind of break down between high, medium, and low cost players. And then I actually come up with traditionally like the player names will be blank. So you can print these out and then work on them yourselves, like write in the players that you're thinking. So these are just potential budget splits that you could use if you prefer, or you can go. There are endless possibilities. If you just wanted to pick all $5 players or all $4 players, you can do that. These are potential budget splits with all $25 being used. And then at the bottom, it kind of explains the scoring, like how it works if you wanted to scope that out a little bit more. But today, basically, I went through and I came up with 4 different roster candidates for my teams, and then I'm going to be picking one of them to go into the contest. So to start, we'll go with the LA Thieves. When you go in, you can click Create a Team. It tells you that your spend cap right here. You pick your captain and you make your team name. So I'm just going to do uh, I'll just put Mac. Nice and easy. So basically, when you want to select a player, you just go in and select them, and you'll see them on your team up here. If you misclick, easy, right? Um, so when we look at standard, uh, you can see some of the players that just haven't won a tournament, and that's why they're low. But they actually have pretty high series averages. So if New York wins the tournament, they're going to be very valuable, just because they score a lot of points to begin with, and then if they win a major, if they win the grand finals, their total points are going to go up a lot. But when I went through and did my breakdowns, I basically went through each dollar value. So for this one, I went with I believe it's 10.654. Um, Simp has been absolutely lighting it up. When the meta is going to shift a little bit more towards SMGs again, that only helps him, honestly. So I think his series average right now of 44.5, I don't think he can keep that up. That's a crazy number. But if Atlanta repeats again this stage, he's going to be the #1 player in fantasy. So that's why I went with him for my $10 pick. For $6, Sib has actually been kind of underperforming this year, especially in fantasy, because he doesn't do a crazy amount of objective work. His deaths per 10 minutes are kind of high. So I picked him as kind of like a bounce back player. Again, like when you do this, it's not like you're competing against like 10 people in like a fantasy football league. You're competing against hundreds of people. So you want to kind of mix in some risk reward. Um, so Sib is that. He's a high risk, high reward player. He could easily be in the $9 value range if he performs well. But if he doesn't, he's going to be down in the 6 to 5. So I went with him. I think he's going to have a bounce back. New York looked better. I think he's been talking about some controller issues. I think that's probably going to be fixed by the time the qualifiers come through. So I went with him with my high risk player for $6. And then you kind of have 2 low cost players for this one. I'm going with the high, mid, double low. Um, so I went with Nasty. I think Nasty's individual numbers were actually a lot better than what it's saying right here. I think LA Thieves is going to be a little bit of a better team this time around. More time as a unit. Joe Deceives coming back. He played well in Challengers last stage. And I think Nasty's just way better than $4 suggests. They have a really easy schedule. As you can see, they have the easiest schedule in the CDL. So I went with him as my first low-cost player. My second low-cost player is actually Pentagram. I've heard, again, Boston's been doing well in practice, so I wanted to go with at least one Boston player. And I've heard Pentagram's been doing pretty well. Again, it's high risk, high reward. This one's probably my biggest boom or bust roster out of all 4 of these. If you wanted to go with something consistent that you think is going to work, honestly, the triple mid and single low is the way to go if you just want to play it safe. But I kind of went with my high risk, high reward. Should this be the name of my team? That's actually what I'm going to make that. So we're going to go with like all the risk. So that's going to be, again, Simp, and then we go down to Sib, and then for my final 2, Pentagram and Nasty. And then when you have a roster like this, it's very clear who your captain should be. So mine's gonna be Simp for the high value. If you go with more of a play it safe and you have like a high, double mid, low, honestly you could pick any one of these as a captain, but you want to pick your captain as who's gonna be the highest scoring player. So for this one right here, Neuro, Envoy, Kenny, and Nasty, it actually kind of sucks because you don't know who's gonna be your highest scoring player. It could realistically be any of these 3. But when you get into ones like this one, really it should be Pred. In this one right here, it's a toss up between Pred and Hydra. But for this roster right here, it's obviously Simp that you want for your captain. It's nice and easy. So if you click save, it saves your roster. And so when you go to the LA Thieves contest, you'll see your team up there right there. Yeah, cool. So LA Thieves checked off, right? So now let's go to Seattle. This one actually is probably one of my favorites, just because the prizes are crazy. Oh, not Seattle, Minnesota. But I actually like this one too, with the dog tag. I think the dog tag is one of the coolest things, accessories that the CDL is selling, for a team. Again, that's not even the CDL. That's Seattle that's doing it. I think it's really really cool. Um, so again, Seattle, when you go in, you can see the scoring right here. It's no death penalty. So that basically means if you go right here on the bottom, for hardpoint deaths per 10 minutes, it's 0. For S&D kills or deaths per round, 0. You don't get a negative points that you would get in standard and other scoring methods. So basically, who this affects the most is the highest pacing players. Um, so the players don't get the negatives now for dying, and they get all the positives for getting kills and doing the objective. So that's why you can see a little bit of a change up in the pricing. Now Scrap leads the way with the highest series average. You can see some players move up and down. ARs are going to get hit the most. You'll see Celium, Attach, I think Dashy, Ghosty. The ARs kind of get a hit because they weren't getting a big negative anyways with their deaths. It really affects the fast-paced SMGs or flex players. They get the most boost from this. And more of the slower ARs actually take a big hit. Slower SMGs, big hit. If you don't play the objective at all, big hit. And so that's where you see it right here. So when we go into, these are the potential builds again. Again, these are just the ones that I come up with, my suggestions for each one. So the one I'm going for this one is a little bit more of the middle range. So it's one high cost player, two middle cost players, and then one low cost. And you can see I actually have a common theme going through these. I actually really like Geo in this one. He is the 37th ranked player, middle of the pack for the $5 players. They have a little bit of a tougher schedule, but he averages 64.4 points per series, again with no placement multiplier. I think Vegas should again be in the upper bracket for Major 3. If they finish in the top 6 range again, if they make a big run to top 4, he's going to get a lot of good points. I think he's the second best player on that roster. It could be between him and Nero. I think he's been really impactful though. So for $5, he's really really good. And then basically I was able to stack 3 good players on my roster. We have Pred, Celium, and Kenny, and to go with Geo, obviously. So for this one, I went with the 8665 version of this budget split. So basically, when you look at the $8 players, there actually are some really good players that you can pick from. Envoy, Insight, Draza. I'm not too high on Vickle, Snoopy, and Joe Deceives. Again, for the series averages they get here, but then you also have to take into consideration placements. So like Vickle, Miami, they're 0-12 map count, 0 something terrible. I think it's 0-12 on LAN. They're not going to get those placement points for that. They're not going to get more points at the major. So that's why when you go again, look at the cheat sheet, you can kind of see when you look at 8, you can kind of see the difference between majors. You see the clear 4 that you want to pick in this dollar range. So when you go back to it, that's why Pred is my number 1 pick. Again, you could pick, if you think Toronto's going to win the major, you can pick Envoy, Insight. If you think Atlanta's going to win the major again, you can go Draza. I went Pred, and then I kind of like hedged my bet with Celium. So I was like, if either Texas or Atlanta wins this, I'm going to get really good points at the major. So that's why I went with Celium with $6. I think if he can continue doing the objective work that he did in stage 2, he's going to be worth probably in the high 7s instead of the 6. And if Atlanta faces off against Texas in the grand finals again, he's going to be worth the $6 range. Same thing with Kenny. His points have taken a hit because his S&D has not been well, but he was sick in stage 2 for a while. Texas was struggling in S&D all the way up until the end of stage 2. I think if they're clicking, and again, I hedged my bet that on this roster that Texas is going to win the major. That's why I did the double Texas. If he improves and he continues playing well, they have a whole split. I think the map set's going to help them. I think he's going to be worth a ton of points for $6. And then again, went with Geo. I already kind of talked about him. I just think he's going to be a good player for Vegas. So then you go into here, and then we'll do Texas or bust. Um, Again, you just go through. So we have Pred. Jeez, I'm already forgetting my roster. Celium, Kenny, and then where is he? Gio. And then you want to pick the player who you think is going to score the most amount of points for your captain. I'm going to go with Pred out of this team, and then save. So there's my Seattle one, and then we have two more left. So we'll go with the statement of. So again, this is the attach one that he is 50% off. You'll see him down here. I'm gonna click him instantly right away because he's supposed to be worth $7. He was actually at the top of 7. Again, the 50% off, the discount tag was on him. So he's $4. He's your must-pick player on this one. You can see it is the kill heavy. So he's the kill heavy one. So anyone that's a Slayer, you'll see right here. The kill heavy one has a little bit of it's 1.5 times the normal amount of points. So kills, instead of 1.2 in hardpoint, it's 1.8. Instead of 1.1 in control, it's 1.65. Instead of 3 points per kill per round, it's 4.5 now for S&D. So a little bit of a boost on that front. It helps, again, the Slayers, so that's why you'll see at the top Hydra, Kleenex, Simp, Scrap. These are the guys that are getting a lot of kills per 10 minutes. Scrap's honestly insane. This gives him a huge boost. And again, like attach was supposed to be 7, and honestly at the fringe of 8. So now he's $4, and you can see he's outscoring these guys by a ton of points to begin with. So he's your must-pick player. When you go into the intro, you'll see attach is automatically your low-cost player for every single one. You're crazy if you don't pick him. And again, you could do one high cost, one mid, and then 2 low, or you can see the splits that we have. The one I went with for this one is actually 3 mid costs, and then 1 low. And you can see actually it's 7, 7, 7, 4, and with attach supposed to being 7, so this is a quadruple $7 dollar roster, which would be worth $28 if attach was full cost. So I went with that. I think Envoy, Dashie, and Nero. Envoy had a down stage, and it affected his pricing a lot. Before this, he was at the beginning of 8. He had a really bad stage last time. Played pretty poorly in the last 2 days in the major, but I think he's a candidate for a bounce back. Dashie is my risk for this because he honestly hasn't been putting up a ton of slaying numbers. But I think again, if I have to hedge between the winners, and in this roster, I'm looking for a Toronto and Texas Grand Finals for the Toronto Major, with Toronto taking it, because that would give Envoy a ton of points, and if they win it, he's going to be a huge factor in that. And then Dashie. So Dashie's my risk because he hasn't had a lot of high kills per 10 minutes. He's been more of the objective player, low deaths per 10 minutes. So this one isn't his best scoring system, but we're gonna take that risk because if he does get a lot of kills per 10 minutes, if Pred is more in that roaming Slayer role, if Kenny's doing something more of the objective work for him, then he's gonna have that high kills per 10 and it's gonna be worth it. Nero has been amazing for Vegas this year. Been really just finding the consistency that he was lacking in years past. So that's why he's just an excellent value for $4. And obviously we have attach. You have to pick attach. Unreal if you don't. I think this roster right here is going to be amazing. Any of these ones are honestly going to be really good, but each one of them has a risk. For this potential build, you have Clay, who was at the top of the $5 one. I think with Carolina moving into I don't know if it's Team House, I don't know if they have a facility. They have something in Carolina where they're all going to be with each other. It should make it should make their pings a lot better for the online qualifiers. Again, ping is kind of an overrated thing. This is probably the best that online competitive Call of Duty has been ever, but the only ones it really affects is ones that are extremely split around the country. West Coast players are kind of in a better spot this year, and Seattle's because the Surge are in Vancouver this year. That's where they play out of. They can't have. I can't imagine their pings are great for majority of the teams. But now that Carolina's on the East Coast, they're going to have really low pings against Miami, Atlanta, Boston, New York, any of the Texas teams. So they're going to be looking much better, hopefully online. That was their weak point. They've been performing much better on lands, but that's the risk, is that if they don't perform better, then one of my 4 players is going to not do good. So that's Clay there. Um, Hook has not actually been very good individually this year, statistic-wise, but with a kill heavy, if he does do good, if that roster clicks, that new roster clicks, Hook's going to be crazy, like crazy valuable. And again, this is based off the rumored teams, not confirmed. If a player doesn't come in that we have here, they're just going to be switched out. So if I pick the rumored team is Gunless and Standy on Minnesota. If one of those 2 players isn't actually in Minnesota, we're just going to swap out whatever player actually is. So if I pick Gunless, but it's really Gravity, like Gravity will come in for Gunless, you know what I mean? But I think Hook could be in for a good stage on a kill heavy one, but again, it's just a huge risk with him. And again, that's what Sib is for this one. Sib he's been underperforming, but he should be performing at a much higher level. I think if he can get his controller situation set, if New York continues playing really highly, makes a little bit of a deeper run into the tournament, he's going to be a good player. But for this one, I kind of went with the safe quadruple sevens. So I'm just going to do the lucky sevens. And we're just going to go through. So we have Envoy, Nero, we went with Dashi, right? Yeah, Envoy, Nero, Dashi, and Attach. So again, for the sevens, you could go with anybody in the $6 range if you like them more, or somebody in the sevens. So if you wanted Kenny instead of Dashi, if you wanted Gwyn instead of Dashi, or even a $6 player that you think could step up, more than fair. But I'm just going to go with him for now, go with my lucky sevens. And then for my captain, again, I think for this one to work, Toronto's going to have to win the tournament. So that's why I'm going to go with Envoy. I think that's just a good pick there. And then we're into the final one. So the final one that we haven't joined is the Minnesota Rokkr. This is the Rokkr fan club for stage 3. Again, they have top 5 get a prize. I think it's pretty awesome. They've been just trying to do more and more with this, which has been our goal. Like the brands that we work with, we want to keep working with them in the long term. And they've just been like an incredible partner for this. So for theirs, they use the objective heavy. So this one is 1.5 times the normal value for hill time and hardpoint, opening dual wins and S&D, and ticks per attacking round in control. So if you have a player that's good at those, they're going to get 1.5 times the normal amount of points. So who does that help the most? Shotzzy, Abizi, and S&D. It helps Dashi, Celium, Insight, and control and hardpoint, control and hardpoint. So those are kind of the players you want to look at. Again, Kismet is a good player for this one. He's good in the opening duels. He's good in hill time. Fame gets again good S&D, and then he's okay in the 2 respawn modes. But for $9, he's a little bit too much of a risk. But for my team here, we have our beginner's guide again with the 4 potential budget splits and some variations in between. And honestly, for this one, again, I went with Geo for a lot of these. I tried to switch it up a little bit. I included Beans for one, Priesta for one. Tried to mix some Boston players in again. Got myself an Attach one for this one. Honestly, this one's probably the most fun one to kind of experiment with, because like with objective work, you kind of have like the best of both worlds. You can still put up crazy slaying numbers like Simp, Scrap, Kleenex do, and be up there, but you can also get good points out of the objective work. Any players that have like 100+ hill time game, like Dashi gets a lot of, tons of points. But you also have to look at it as, are they going to blow out teams and not get a lot of that work? So it's a little bit of a risk there too if they have an easier schedule. But for this one, I went with a high cost, 2 mid costs, and then 1 low cost player. This one just stuck out to me when I was looking at these after I built them. I just liked it from 1 through 4. Dashi has been the objective king this year. He's the super soaker and hardpoint. He's the #1 tick capturer with Kenny and control. his opening duels have been horrible. Actually, he's like one of the worst in the CDL for S&D, and I think that's just kind of like an anomaly when you look at him career-wise. So I think if he can continue doing what he does in hard point and control in the respawns, and he improves in his opening duels in S&D, clear he could be a clear-cut $10, $9 player. Right now he's actually at 8, so that was my go-to right away. Again, I when I play these, sometimes I go way too much into the risk, and I'm just like boom or bust all the way. Um, that's kind of what I've done with this roster, just because I'm banking on Dashy being better in opening duels. I'm banking on Sib just being better all around. We have Ghosty. Again, that's just banking that LA Thieves isn't shit. I don't think they are. I think they're going to be much better this one. Because they're much better, there's a chance they can be in the upper bracket, which means you get more points for your major, which means Ghosty will be a better player. They have the 12th. They have the easiest strength of schedule. Like they should do good this stage. They should be in the upper bracket. What they want, hopefully, is to get a top 4 seed, and then for one of the top 4 teams to kind of get some weird losses, so then they can get a little bit of an easier um, round 1 matchup, get that automatic. I think it's what, top 6 if you win in your first matchup, and that's just points baby. And then we have Geo. So I've talked about Geo a lot already. Vegas, I think, could be a sleeper team this stage. I know they have a little bit of a tough schedule. If they do good, it's going to be behind their big 3, Attach, Nero, and Geo. So I'm big on him as your low cost player. I think he's going to do really, really well. Again, there are some great low cost options for almost every single one. I'll go to standard real quick just so we can see that. So these are your low cost guys. These are your mid cost right here, and then your high cost are up at the top. So for the low cost, you can see that Assault has had good placements at the major, which has kept him afloat. But if they don't, that's the risk. If they don't do good at the major, you can see he's the second highest scoring player at the majors for the low cost players. Only Clayster's higher. That's the risk though. If they don't place high, Assault's not going to do too hot. Whereas Purge is one of the highest scoring player. He is the highest scoring player in the qualifier, but it's not great at the major. He fumbles a lot at the major. It's the same thing with Priesta. So that's the thing with the low cost players, is you have to do a fair bit of research to see like who's actually going to pay off the most for you when you're looking at that. But again, if you think Boston's going to do well, Priesta, Beans, and Pentagram are excellent picks for your low cost players. If you think LA Thieves are going to finally step up, like Kremp and Nasty are good players to look at. Do you think Carolina, now that they're back in the team house, they have whatever they have in Carolina, do you think they're going to step up at the qualifiers? Because you can see right here, look, they're just so far behind in the qualifiers, but they're actually good at the majors. So do they take that step up during the qualifiers? So that can make Clayster and Fellow actually an attractive opinion or option for your low cost players. So that's where you got to do like the research that goes behind it. Obviously, this is more of like a new thing that we're building up. When I look at fantasy football, for example, I do a lot of research into that, and that's kind of what we want to be like aiming for with this in the future. So that's why the goal is to start making more of these, cheat sheets, just tools that you can use to do more research into the players. But yeah, that's it for going here. I actually forgot who my team is. We'll build that out real quick. Where is he? Dashy, Ghosty. What else we have here? Sib and Geo. Sib and Geo. And Super Soakers. And then I think my highest placing player will be Dashy. We'll save that up. And then boom. So that's all 8. Again, you can play these for free. The sign up won't close until the 19th. We usually allow more teams to be created over the weekend, over the first week. Because of all the roster changes, we had to keep delaying it. So as of right now, the qualifiers actually only start in 3 to 4 days away, I think. I can't even do it off the top of my head. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Yeah, so 3 full days away. So we're going to keep it open again later. It allows you to make more teams later on. But For tiebreakers, the first team that gets created wins. Wins that tiebreaker. So creating your teams now is actually worth it. If you want to edit your team, you can edit your team all the way up until Friday. So you can create it, do some more research, figure out which players you want to buy low on, sell high on, like stay away from. Um, it's actually a lot of fun. I can make some more content if you guys enjoy this around some of the players that are worth buying low on, some of the players to stay away from, and my sleeper picks for this next upcoming stage. If that's something you guys are interested in, let me know down below. I'm going to be filming my podcast later today as well, with some of the team drama going around and some of the other stuff going into the stage 3. Also, I'll touch on some of the GA stuff as well. I'm actually kind of excited to talk about all that. But thank you guys for the support. Like, comment, and let me know below if you want more fantasy content on the page. Thank you guys so much.